"Grandpa, I need help. Please. Someone help. Please save us." In desperation, I contacted my grandfather. The useless me and my brother with developmental disabilities are no longer needed. My brother and I grew up always being compared to our sister, who was considered a genius. Unable to recover from the shock of being disowned by our parents, our grandfather gave us a loving embrace. "You've done well. There's nothing to worry about now." Grandfather's gentle warmth and my brother's smile supported me. At that moment, I couldn't hold back my tears. My name is Nola. I'm 22 years old and currently working at a company. I have a family full of unique individuals' parents, a sister, and a brother, but unfortunately, that uniqueness sometimes takes a negative turn. This is an episode about our family. During our childhood, we siblings got along very well, rarely fought, and always played together. My sister Viola is 2 years older than me, and my brother Howell is 2 years younger. When my sister was in elementary school, she started to be regarded as a genius. Feeling that she was different from other children, our parents had her take an IQ test, where she recorded a surprising IQ of 150. From that day on, especially our parents' attitudes changed drastically. "Your sister Viola is wonderful. She's sure to become a politician or a top executive in the future," my mother proudly said, and my father also responded with a vulgar laugh. "Exactly. At the least, she'll definitely become a millionaire." Our parents were ordinary and showed equal love to all 3 children. But once my sister was deemed a genius, their attitudes completely changed. They began to excessively favor my sister. Meals were tailored to her preferences, and she was the only one taken out. Everything was given to my sister, allowing her a prosperous life. Meanwhile, my brother and I were mostly neglected. Even during holiday trips, we were left at home. Common sense seemed to have vanished. At that time, we were in the lower grades of elementary school. I was in the 4th grade, and my brother was in the 2nd grade. Despite this, our parents only took our sister, who was in 6th grade, on trips. "It's natural since your sister will support us in the future. We shouldn't waste money," our parents argued. However, leaving 2 young children behind for a trip should have been a problem. Although money was left for us, and we managed to buy meals from a deli, it was only natural to question why children had to go out at night to buy food from a deli. As a result, the police were notified, and our parents received a stern warning. It's a wonder we weren't taken into protective custody, but probably because we weren't particularly thin, locked up, or abused. It might have been something like being under observation. But please understand, even if it's not visible, children can receive terrible treatment from their parents. Emotional wounds are invisible. My brother and I were just kids, and in reality, it wasn't easy for us to speak out. It's not that we were completely abandoned while our sister was favored. Naturally, children want to spend time with their parents, no matter what. But I was still better off. Though I felt dissatisfied with the hand-me-downs from my sister, they were still bearable. Overall, it's almost as if we were neglected. And to say it was still better indicates how much worse my brother was treated. When he was young, my brother often suddenly screamed and ran around, and was thought to be restless. Boys my age sometimes behaved similarly, but my brother was different. His language development was delayed. He often struggled to communicate effectively and frequently became frustrated. He was picky about food, and because only my sister's favorites were served, he often threw his meals on the floor. In elementary school, he would sometimes walk around during class and was unable to eat his lunch. Occasionally, he had troubles with his friends. In other words, my brother had developmental disabilities. However, slow growth didn't mean no growth. He had been growing slowly but surely, and with support from his teachers, his behavior at school gradually improved. Though still challenged in conversation, his ability to communicate was gradually improving. As a 4th grader, I felt relieved by my brother's progress and somehow managed our time alone at home. but our parents did not acknowledge our efforts. Constantly compared to our talented sister, my brother was often berated. Eventually, he heard words to the extent of "you should not have been born." Now, I understand that these are words no parent should ever direct at their child. If it were now, I could argue back. But back then, all I felt was sadness and frustration, and I could not respond to our parents. For a child in elementary school, parents are an absolute authority. My brother heard harsh words from our parents and understood the difference in treatment compared to our sister. However, perhaps due to his developmental disability and childlike innocence, he would forget the harsh treatment he received the day before and would cheerfully talk to our parents the next day. Such behavior made him very dear to me, yet our parents looked at him with strange eyes. They treated him coldly, squinting as if disgusted. No matter how my brother tried to engage with them, they continued to ignore him. The favoritism continued to be exclusively for my sister. On her birthday, our parents would take her out to dine. Me and Howell were at home alone, as usual. There was nothing special about our birthdays. I can't even remember when we last received a present. Naturally, only Viola received presents at Christmas. Howell and I didn't have a study desk, we studied on cardboard. I remember that cardboard breaking many times. Still, we managed to live because meals were provided, and we had a home. I gently embraced my unknowing brother, telling him repeatedly, "Don't worry, Howell. I love you and will always be with you." The reason for this behavior was unclear. Perhaps we siblings, who were neither loved nor treated equally by our parents, felt a desire to cling to each other. Maybe I was unconsciously aware that Howell's presence was my mental support. As time passed, my once close sister and I eventually stopped talking. Viola had her own room, while Howell and I were always together in a cramped one. We even began to eat in our room so as not to disturb our sister. On the rare occasions we did see each other, the awkwardness prevented any real conversation. As we entered adolescence, the situation grew more serious. It was a warm day in August when I was 12, Howell was 10, and Viola was 14. Out of the blue, our parents announced, "We'll be going to New York soon." I thought it was just a trip, but they continued, "We don't plan to return. We sold the house. The sale proceeds will be used to find a new home in New York." "Are we moving?" I was shocked. "Your sister has been recognized by a certain college professor," he said. "This girl is a genius. She will go to a high school where that professor is," they explained. "Really? Then, are we going to a new school too?" I had just started to enjoy middle school life last year, at age 12. The change to a new environment might have been well-timed for my sister, but not for me. Thinking about parting with my friends made my face cloud with sadness. However, "What? You're not coming," my mother said casually. "Wait, we're moving, right? We're losing the house, right?" "That's right. But you and Howell aren't coming with us." I couldn't keep up with my mother's words, and confusion spread. "So, what are we supposed to do?" My mother just shrugged. "I don't know, but you're old enough to figure it out on your own." "What? Dad, what's happening?" I looked at my father in shock, but he kept his eyes on the TV and answered, "Nothing special. Just saying you and Howell are not needed. Don't you get that you're a burden? But that's too harsh." The moment I tried to continue, my mother slammed the table hard. "I'm at my limit. Haven't we taken good care of you until now? What more do you want from us? Honestly, like you, Nola, Howell has no prospects for the future. I don't see the point in supporting such children any longer. Really, we deserve thanks just for raising you." Not seeing the point in continuing to support us, we were at least able to maintain a basic life. But was that enough? Had our parents ever shown up at school events? Did they come to sports days? They didn't attend parent-teacher meetings either, claiming they were too busy. They just ignored our existence while we were merely living. Such selfish reasoning darkened my thoughts. "Sister, give this to me." At that moment, my unknowing brother said that and handed me a book. As I vaguely watched our parents' faces contort, I gently corrected him. "Howell, that's not quite right. Say please. Please give this to me is correct." With a beaming smile, Howell repeated, "Please give this to me. My pure and innocent brother, the pillar of my heart." As I was doing this, I realized tears were streaming down my face. Really, you two are nothing but a curse. Fueled by such words from our mother and the indifferent attitude of our father, who pretended to know nothing, I made up my mind. I was still a child, but I was about to start anew as already a middle school student. Gone were the days when I couldn't do anything now. Driven by anger, I made a call in the middle of the night, expecting to be scolded for calling so late. I was relieved when the call quickly connected and I heard the voice on the other end. "Hello, Grandpa, I need help." After shouting that, I couldn't stop crying. A few days later, Howell and I were staying at our grandparents' house. Our maternal grandparents were no longer around, and we had hardly ever seen our paternal grandparents. Despite feeling anxious, after I tearfully told everything in the middle of the night, my grandfather came to pick us up right away. By then, our home was already empty. Our parents had already moved to a new house with our sister. It was an unbelievable reality. Holding the few belongings we had, Grandfather found us bewildered and angry. The useless me and my brother with developmental disabilities are no longer needed. As I finished saying those words, tears once again flooded my face. Immediately, a warm embrace enveloped us. "You've done well. There's nothing to worry about now." "Good job, Nola." Touched by Grandpa's words, tears overflowed again. As I cried my eyes out, Howell, who didn't understand, also began to cry. Grandpa supported us until we calmed down. Then, we headed to our grandparents' house. Grandma warmly embraced us upon arrival and cried together with Howell and me. Afterward, it was decided that we would live with our grandparents. Grandpa had spoken to our father, his son, over the phone, but he was furious, saying it was a completely pointless conversation. The contents of that conversation were easy to guess. However, knowing that Grandpa could express his emotions like that strangely helped restore peace to my heart. A few days later, once we had settled in, Howell and I thoroughly explored our grandparents' house. Despite being our first visit, the house, located in the countryside, was very spacious. We saw a place on the property that was unfamiliar, and I asked Grandpa about it. "Grandpa, what is that?" "That's a barrel for wine. Our family has been running a winery for generations." According to Grandpa, the house has been involved in wine making for a long time, but it is not particularly famous, and it doesn't bring in much income. Displeased with that fact, our father left home without taking over the family business. Since then, there has been almost no contact with our grandparents. Still, they welcomed us with smiles. I was just filled with gratitude for this welcome. I explained Howell's situation to our grandparents. Initially, they were surprised, but Grandpa began to speak. "Everyone is different, and that's what's good. I'm not perfect either, and I can't understand difficult things quickly. I've been told I was short-tempered, but I made it this far because of others' support. You and Howell are fine, just as they are," he encouraged us. Grandma joined in. "Let's take our time. Life is long, and there's absolutely no need to rush. It's lovely to be like children forever," she said, smiling and stroking our heads. The kindness of my grandparents and Howell's honest smile gently enveloped my heart. Tears of emotion overflowed multiple times. As a result, we transferred schools, but the rural school had fewer students, so we were able to fit in quickly. Although it was the countryside, the community was not closed off. The people were very warm. In that environment, Howell thrived, and I too experienced growth. Thanks to our grandparents taking care of Howell, I finally had some time to myself. Having been preoccupied with taking care of my brother before, I spent my newfound time catching up on my studies. Howell developed a particular interest in the winery and often went to watch our grandfather and the craftsmen at work. During that time, there were moments when I remembered our parents who had abandoned us and our sister from whom we were separated, but with the constant love from our grandparents, I hardly felt lonely and lived fulfilling days. Before I knew it, 10 years had passed. Having graduated from college at 22, I landed a job at a decent company and work near my grandparents' home. Howell, having graduated from high school, has been helping out with Grandpa's business. The grown-up Howell could now converse smoothly, and although he sometimes made outlandish remarks, they were trivial matters. Now 20, Howell was diligently studying to become a certified winemaking technician. Enthralled by the world of winemaking, Howell engaged in vigorous discussions about techniques and methods with Grandpa and other craftsmen nearly every day. Grandpa, who had aged significantly over the decade, came alive during these discussions. I was enjoying a stable and happy life, cherishing those days. However, a sudden event disrupted our tranquil life. The quiet of the morning was shattered by the cry of hello. Awakened by that voice, I hurried to the entrance while shaking off the sleepiness. "What do you want now?" I was fully awakened by Grandpa's shouting voice. The sight of who was standing there left me unable to hide my surprise. What? Could it be Dad, Mom? Yes, it was my parents who had reappeared after 10 years, changed so much they were barely recognizable. But when my mother said in surprise, "Oh, Nola, haven't you grown up a lot?" I was sure it was her. My father had lost so much weight that he was unrecognizable compared to his formerly chubby self. Mom's hair, once regularly maintained at the salon, was now disheveled and peppered with gray. She looked nothing like her old self without makeup, almost like a different person. "What happened to you both?" I asked. "It's good to see you. Nola, can I ask for help from you too?" "Support us," Mom said. "What do you mean?" I was puzzled. Then, Dad spoke. "We know everything. Your grandfather's winery, it seems to be making a profit lately. Is it true it's making $5 million a year? If so, this will be quick. I'll take over, so give us the money." So that was it. Grandpa's winery had recently increased its sales due to some innovations. It had finally reached millions in revenue. It was unclear where they had gotten their information, but it seemed my parents were after the money. Moreover, they shamelessly claimed they were the successors. This was unexpected. "You must be joking. Do you think making wine is that easy? What can a person who abandoned their own children do?" Grandpa scolded sharply before I could speak. However, Dad continued to plead. "Please help us. We're out of money and losing our place. I'm your only son, right? Mom, say something. Without me, how will this long-standing wine business continue? You plan to hand it over to strangers. Are you really out of money? What happened?" I had many questions, but I was so shocked by the fact that I asked that first. In response, Mom glared at me. Her expression was like that of an angry demon. "Oh, you're worried about that, Nola. Listen to a bit about your useless elder sister." "Elder sister? Do you mean Viola?" "Yes, that girl. She completely changed after moving to the city. She turned down the college professor's recommendation and went to an IT company she chose." "What's an IT company? Is it really that good?" "It seems Mom was out of touch with the times, and she flew abroad for work. We asked her to take us with her, but she completely ignored us." "Unbelievable." "That's hilarious." "What's so funny about that?" I couldn't help but laugh, and my mother became furious. I couldn't suppress my laughter. "Look, you left us behind, so my sister abandoned you too. It's truly what you deserve." "What are you saying?" "Don't forget the kindness we showed you. We survived until 12. But can you really say you raised us? Leaving behind a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and you still say such things." I was astounded that they could say such things. "Viola was supposed to become wealthy and take care of us, so we quit our jobs. But she easily abandoned us. At this age, there's no way we can get a decent job. Hey, Dad, even if you don't take over, please don't abandon us. It's a request from your dear son." Father pleading. seemed unaware. He didn't notice that Grandpa's expression was getting increasingly stern. It seemed like he was about to erupt. Grandma silently went to the back of the house. This would likely lead to Grandpa raising his voice. At that moment, "Hey, what's going on?" Howell appeared with a relaxed voice. "Ah? Howell? You've grown up quite a bit." Mom couldn't hide her astonishment, and Dad also marveled. Could this be the same Howell who could barely speak? "Listen, both of you. Humans are creatures that grow, so Howell has overcome his mild disability and can at least converse. Okay, Howell, I'll support you, so ask Dad to support us too. Listen to me." But my words couldn't reach my desperate father. All they cared about was money. However, soon after, "I don't really know you," Howell said, and at that moment, our parents were at a loss for words. With an innocent smile, Howell continued, "My family is just Grandpa, Grandma, and my sister. I don't have other parents, so I don't know you." "What?" While there was still a childlike quality about him, Howell's resolve was firm. Shocked by his emphatic rejection, our parents lost color in their faces. "Strangers aren't allowed in the house. Goodbye." With that, Howell disappeared into the back of the room. "Wait, Howell. Nola, say something." "Something." "No, not like that." I had merely repeated something as they asked, but apparently that wasn't satisfactory. As I pondered this, Grandma reappeared. She was holding a box with something white inside. "Leave?" A grave voice filled the space. "What?" "Dad." Before a downcast Grandpa, my father was frightened. Soon after, Grandpa suddenly looked up and declared forcefully, "This winery will be inherited by Howell. We have no need for someone like you here. You who abandoned Nola and Howell are strangers. I have no interest in caring for strangers in my old age. Leave this instant." "What? Howell will inherit? That's impossible. What are you saying?" "The reason our winery sales have soared is all thanks to Howell." "What? How is that possible?" Actually, Howell started to seriously help with winemaking right after he graduated from high school. Although he couldn't officially drink until he was 21, he was remarkably able to distinguish flavors just by their aromas. He detected even the slightest differences in taste faster than anyone else. Perhaps from childhood, his sense of taste was extremely sensitive, which was considered part of his developmental disorder, and that ability had proven to be very useful in winemaking. Based on Howell's opinions about subtle changes detected through sense alone, some improvements were made, and Grandpa said, "We've created something incredible." And it became a huge hit. When Howell turned 21 and could officially drink, his unique talents shone even brighter. Grandpa's winemaking business quickly reached an annual revenue of $5 million. Next year, it might even reach $10 million. "That's why you can leave us out of it." "We are Howell's real parents," my parents said. "What are you saying after abandoning him?" Grandpa shouted in anger. Mom also stepped forward to join the battle. "Listen, we're struggling with life and drowned in debt. So help us a little." The moment she made that foolish request, Grandma started to scream. "We have slugs here." "Ow, what is this?" "Salty. Salt. Why?" "Come now, demons out. Parents who abandon their children out." Grandma scattered the salt with an expressionless face. Her expression was cold and terrifying. "Demons like you should shrink and vanish." "Stop, please." "Ah, it got in my eye. It stings." As my parents screamed, Grandma continued to spread salt expressionlessly. This bizarre scene unfolded. "Get out," Grandpa shouted loudly. "Leave now," Grandma also yelled. And then, "This is goodbye forever." As I said this, I waved my hand goodbye, towards my parents. That was the final blow. Unable to endure it any longer, my parents staggered away from the scene. Afterward, my parents tried to contact us several times, But Grandpa threatened to call the police if they continued their persistent attempts, and since then, the contact ceased. What happened to my parents after they were chased by debt collectors remains unknown. And that's what happened, big sister. It was really tough, I explained. I see. I'm sorry to hear that, my sister replied. That day, I was talking on the phone. The person on the other end was my sister Viola, who was working abroad. In fact, I had been in constant contact with her. As children, we were helpless, and our family was torn apart. However, my kind sister remained unchanged. Knowing I was at our grandparents' house, she frequently reached out. Our first reunion in years happened when my sister went to college. At that time, my grandparents and we siblings gathered to devise a plan to rescue my sister from our parents. Had we not intervened, she would undoubtedly have continued to be exploited by them. As a result, my sister was able to safely escape abroad. Ultimately, Hal and I managed to drive our parents out of the house. Finally, we 3 siblings were free from our parents' control. When I come back, we definitely have to meet. Yeah, I'm waiting. The new wine is really special because it's the first one Hal could drink since he became old enough. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait for the day when the 3 of us can drink together. Saying this, I could feel my sister smiling on the other end of the phone, and I found myself smiling too. Next to me, Howell was also smiling happily as I spoke on the phone.